Hey, it's Hannah here, and Sarah and I are so excited about our up and coming online cacao ceremony. So we hope you are as excited to join us as we are to host it. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of information to prepare on the day so you can get the most out of the ceremony that you possibly can. So about 30 minutes before the start of our ceremony, just decide in advance that 30 minutes before is your time to prepare, where you're not rushed, where you've got lots of time, where you can be very mindful. So if you do have a family or another half, tell them that 30 minutes before you're going to be busy. And there's two things that you need to get ready. One is a space that you're going to be in. So be that your bedroom, maybe you've got a place where you meditate or do yoga regularly, or you're going outside. So whatever your space is. And the other thing that we need to get ready is your cacao. So let's talk about the space first of all. And the order that I would recommend getting it ready is the space first. So then you make your cacao and it's going to stay warm to go into the space. Okay, so go to your space and make sure first of all that if it's a room that it's clean and tidy, that it feels like it's got a nice good vibe to it. If you're sitting on your bed, make sure that like the bed's made, and then make the room as inviting as you can. So if you've got any practices that help with energy, so that might be clearing the space with some sage, for example. Maybe you like to use incense, maybe you like to use essential oils. Get all of that ready. Make sure that you've got your device, so whether that be a phone or your laptop, ready in the room, and that you've got a charger to hand or your device is already charged, so you're not going to lose us mid-ceremony. Anything else about the room? That's probably, a notebook. So bring a journal or a notebook and a pen. So any thoughts that come to mind, you can jot down as well. And that should be everything that you need. You might like to make sure that you've got some comfortable clothing on, perhaps some warm socks to keep your feet warm. So just make sure that you've got a nice space. If you have a family or something else going on in your house, like animals, which are noisy, make sure you've got some earphones ready like me, because it can be really distracting to hear those outside sounds. Not that you're not going to have any, but try and sort of cocoon yourself as much as you can. And then you're going to go down to your kitchen to prepare your cacao. So check the information I've sent you for the dosage that you want to try. But my recommendation is that you make some cacao completely plain, so don't add any sweeteners or any flavourings, the full dose, unless you are on antidepressants, you're pregnant or you're breastfeeding. So if any of those apply to you, make sure that you're using a 20-gram dose or less. So if you haven't experimented with the cacao yet, probably start even lower than that. So maybe 10 grams, so one big tablespoon. So up to 20 grams, okay, if you're on antidepressants, pregnant or breastfeeding. If none of that applies to you, then I suggest if you have a 42-gram dose, then to make up the full dose. So check out my video that I've already sent you on how to make the cacao, but very quickly, I would put a cup on a scale, set the scale to 0, put the cacao in up to 42 grams or the amount that you're using. Top up with hot but not boiling water. And as you're doing that, you want to be, again, quite mindful. So you're actually connecting with the spirit of cacao. And we'll talk more about this in the ceremony. You're connecting with the spirit of the cacao, kind of the smell as you're preparing it. You're not, screaming at the pets or the kids or multitasking. You're just being very mindful and enjoying that process of making your cacao. Then you're either going to stick it in a high-speed blender, which is how you get the best results because the fat really mixes with the water so it comes out nice and creamy. But it doesn't matter if you haven't got a high-speed blender. You can just do it in a pan, but just heat it very, very slowly. Keep stirring it. And it's good if you can give it a little bit of a whisk. So be that a battery-operated whisk or even just a handheld whisk. Just give it a really, really good whisk. Then we want to keep that hot. So use some sort of type of thermal flask with a lid if you've got it. So you're then going to pour it into that and take that up to the room that you're doing the ceremony in. Or if you haven't got that, what I've done in the past is I've made it in a saucepan, or you could pour it into the saucepan if you've just put it in the high-speed blender. Put a lid on top and then a tea towel over the top of that, so you're basically keeping it warm. The way that I've done it in the past is then I carry a chopping board up to the room that I'm going to, a wooden chopping board, so something where it's okay for the heat, particularly if you've got a saucepan. So I've got my saucepan on the chopping board, I've got my mug that I'm ready to pour the cacao into, or you would just have your thermal flask. And then you might like to take some sweetener up to the room with you. So I think it'd be really great if you want to try the cacao completely unadulterated. And then add some sweetener if you feel like you need to at that point. You could take some cayenne pepper, some cinnamon, some vanilla essence, or anything else that you want to add to the cacao. Some people use essential oils. Some people, instead of using water, will blend some type of herbal tea to actually make their cacao with. So if something else is kind of calling you, or you want to experiment with something, do that. And then also make sure that you've got some water. So cacao can be dehydrating. It can leave you really thirsty because it's quite an intense flavour. So then take everything up to the room, maybe with a spoon because it gets really thick unless you're happy to use your finger, which I often am actually, but you can have a cacao to remix it, a spoon to remix it if you need to. And carry your cacao, your sweetener, any other flavourings that you've got, and your water up to the room and log on ready for our start time. If you've got any questions at all, message me before we start. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to ask at ceremony. And also, if you make the 42-gram dose, you're not going to have to drink all of that. So what we'll do is we're actually tuning into how our body's feeling and the communication of our body, and decide whether we want to drink that full dose or not. And I'll explain more in the ceremony, but you could use it cold in a smoothie the next day. You could make an offering to your ancestors if that's something that you like to do, or to the earth. So you could go and pour it back to Mother Earth as like gratitude for gifting us this. Lots of things you can do. So we'll talk about it more in the ceremony, but let me know if you've got any questions, and cannot wait to see you. Lots of love for now.